We're going to use Copilot Chat to create an accounts receivable aging schedule. So let's go ahead and get started. I usually like to start a new chat, and that just kind of clears the registers. Next thing I'm going to do is upload the data. And so we'll follow the instructions here and upload the data. And I'll go ahead and hit enter. And usually it'll give us a summary of the data dictionary and some options of what we'd like to do. And the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and ask it to formally display the data dictionary. And so we can kind of see what it is reading or what it is thinking it is going to compute for us. Okay, and so here's the data dictionary, the name of the company, how much the invoice, and the due date of the invoice. So next we're going to ask it to calculate the days outstanding just so we know how long it's been out. And this calculates the days from the due date of the invoice until 12/31, which is the current date, so we can calculate the various invoices. So we can kind of see this one, for example, was due on 12/2 and is now 12/31. 29 days is the difference, and so that looks like it's computing that correctly. The next thing we're going to do is create a histogram. We just want to do a count of how many are in each of the buckets. Typically we do 30, 60, 90, 120 day buckets, and so we're going to do a count of how many invoices are in each of those bins or buckets and ask it to provide a histogram for us, or a count. Sometimes it comes through and has some errors that it has to regenerate, but generally it works out whatever issues are there, and we can kind of see the totals here of how many invoices are in each grouping. The next thing I'd like it to do is kind of summarize it by customer, so how many invoices, what the total amount is by customer. So I'm going to directly ask it to calculate the total invoices per customer. And so here's the top customers here, and it provides a summary of who they are. Notice it's in declining order. Putnam's looks to be the biggest, and so we're going to go ahead and ask it to provide the individual invoices, and the respective due dates for those Putnam ones. You'll see it often will provide an Excel file of whatever the summary is for us to look at. And recognizing that this is a Microsoft product, maybe tells us why it often will just come right out and give us an Excel file. But here's the summary for each of those. We could add those up and they would add up to this total of 7845.04. And so we can see that there. The next thing we want to do is not actually do a count, but do a total. We want to know what the total invoice amount is in each of the groupings or each bucket or bin by the 30, 60, 90, 120 days. And so we can kind of see what that summary looks like. And so we can see that total, and now I'd like it to provide it as a bar chart. So I'm going to go ahead and ask it to please provide that as a bar chart with the days outstanding and the total invoice amounts that we just computed. And so now it's going to show it in a visual form. And so here's the visual there, and a lot of times what I want it to do is now provide it as a downloadable file. Now I'm going to state a particular name here of what I'd like it to be when I save it, but I've found that Copilot is not yet willing to name it a certain way. I usually like to really name it a certain way so that I can go back and know exactly what I was doing. So let's see if it can do that. So it's saved it, and it saved it as a file. And now let's see if it named it. So here's the name, but it's going to provide it as a generated image, which is not what I'm asking for. I'd like to provide that title, and perhaps sometime it will be able to upgrade and do exactly what I asked. The last thing I wanted to do is display the prompts that I gave. And so here are the prompts that we gave here and its response. And I like to do that so the students or myself can see exactly what I've just done or asked it to do to provide, finally this visualization. So that completes this lab.